Good evening. Welcome to the August 9th, 2022 Guilderland Central School District Board of Education meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item tonight is public comments. We have 2 public comments that were submitted, and I'll go ahead and read the first one here. Hello, I would like to comment on the experience my daughter had at Tech Valley Summer Camp. Simply said, her experience was amazing. She is not always a very social person, but at Tech Valley, it was different. At Tech Valley, she was able to be herself and make friends. She felt like she did not have to be the quiet and shy person she normally is around new people. She felt comfortable there. I think it is wonderful. Guilderland School District gives 1 student each year the opportunity to go to Tech Valley High School. However, I think more students should be given this opportunity. I ask you to consider sending more than 1 student each year. Sincerely, Marie Rivera. Second public comment. A while back, the Enterprise reported, in making her budget presentation on March 8th, Dr. Wiles said she had shortened the district's mission to this, making sure all students, and by that we mean each and every one, are future ready for whatever comes ahead. She noted the future is uncertain. Would you please share with the community what the district is specifically doing to make sure all students are future ready, beyond the usual curriculum, SEL, and DEI efforts? Since the future is uncertain, and as Einstein said, we cannot solve problems on the same level of consciousness that created them. We need more than the current common methods and ideologies. Thank you. Andrew R. Javis. Thank you for your comments. Good. Next item is for consent items. We do all 3 together, right? There's the minutes from the July 5th, 2022 meeting, personnel agenda from August 9th, and the capital project status report for the period ending July 31st, 2022. I suppose we need a motion to approve the consent items. Gloria, second, Rebecca. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 7-0. Next is information items, starting with the curriculum and instruction information.
The Guilderland High School has been recognized as the Scholar Athlete School of Distinction by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. The purpose of the School of Distinction and School of Excellence Awards are to unite varsity coaches in challenging their teams to achieve a statewide academic honor. This year, 86 schools earned the School of Distinction Award and 148 schools earned the School of Excellence Award. The School of Excellence and the School of Distinction Awards highlight the best student athletes in New York State, said Dr. Robert Zayas, the NIFSPA Executive Director. For 234 member schools to be honored for their commitment to academics as well as athletics is a testament to the outstanding leadership and student athletes we have in this state. Schools can apply for the School of Distinction status by having 100% of their varsity teams qualify for and receive the Scholar Athlete Team Award during their respective sports seasons. To earn the School of Excellence Award, 75% of a school's varsity teams must qualify and receive the Scholar Athlete Team Award. The School of Distinction winners will be presented with a certificate and a commemorative award at their local athletic director workshop this fall. Congratulations to the athletic department and Dave Austin for some great work there.
Great, congratulations. It's a great distinction. Next is superintendent information.
All right, thank you so much. I have 2 items this evening. One is to foreshadow the start of the school year. So we are looking forward to Wednesday, August 31st. This is our opening day for staff. And it will begin at 7:30 in the morning right here in the high school with a light breakfast and some welcoming remarks and service recognition for staff and the introduction of some new staff. We will begin at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'll be in the West Gym, and the program will run about an hour. And then the rest of that day and the following will be additional superintendent conference days for our staff to prepare to welcome students back. We're also coming up is our kindergarten welcome. Our elementary schools are inviting new kindergarten students to drop off their supplies, meet their teachers, and maybe even ride a school bus. I'm pretty sure they will be riding a school bus. And so each of the buildings are mailing parents directly, so you can receive specific information for your building, and you should probably already have it at this point. We also have some orientation programs for our middle school students entering 6th grade. That will be Thursday, September 1st from 8:45 until 10. And then we also have an orientation for our 9th graders and our new students, and that's Thursday, September 1st from 8 to 11 in the morning. And then all the students here, you can set your clocks and set your calendars for returning to school on Tuesday, September 6th. And I see some smiles among them, so we'll be happy to welcome you back. And then my second item is just a summary of some of the wonderful things that have been going on this summer for students as well. Next week marks the end of summer school programming for our older students. We had 14 middle school students participating in the regional summer school, which was held in person at the Shellmont Central School District. We also offered our own fully virtual summer school here for our high school students, and there were 76 students enrolled and another 47 scheduled as walk-ins to take Regents exams. Next week also marks the conclusion of our extended school year program for students with disabilities that was housed at Guilderland, or is housed at Guilderland Elementary School. And we also held a 3-week English as a New Language, or ENL, program at Westmere Elementary School this summer. We also had another successful season for our butterfly station at FMS, and the release day will be this Friday at 10:30 a.m. That's Friday, August 12th. And I just want to say thank you to all of the faculty and staff who contributed to these programs. They really, really went beautifully this summer, and we're proud of everyone who made a contribution. So thanks.
Great. I'd like to say thanks to the butterfly folks for opening up for evening hours. I didn't get the opportunity to go, but I know they did it at least twice, and it was really well received. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do that next year, given they have volunteers to do it for the evening hours. Okay, so next is next is board president information, and there are 6 policies for information. However, I believe that there was a couple of changes, and we want to address some things and possibly pass 3 of them tonight.
Yes, I'm happy to give a quick overview, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start at the bottom of the list. Letter F here is from our code of conduct, and we had our code of conduct 100% ready to go, and then got a new update last week. So we've made the adjustment. It's a couple of words that were added in. If the board is comfortable with those additions, we would like for that policy to waive the rules so we can adopt the entire code of conduct tonight, so we have it ready to go for the start of school in September. The other one, there's 2 others that we would like, if possible, to suspend the rules for. The next one up on the list, letter E. We, in the committee meeting, we looked at our volunteers exhibit, and our volunteer exhibit required any volunteer who was going to be spending time in classrooms to be vaccinated. We've amended that to say that vaccination is only required of volunteers if it's also required of employees. You'll recall last year, if our employees weren't vaccinated, they needed to submit to weekly testing. We wouldn't do that for our volunteers. So we thought we at least balanced out the expectations for anyone who would be in the classroom. And then the other one that's here for a review is our student harassment and bullying prevention policy and regulation. Again, we would like to have these ready for school if everyone is comfortable with them. How is that for those who are on the committee? I think Rebecca. Go ahead. It would be B and C. They're actually linked together.
Okay. For letter B, the paragraph that's yellowed out and crossed out, I'm just curious why like why we got rid of the Safe and Respectful Schools Committee?
Those committees were formed about 10 or 12 years ago when we were awarded a grant to do certain work. The grant has long since gone away. The committees don't exist anymore. And to have a policy that says we're going to bring things to these committees is confusing to our public. So that's why we removed it.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we need a motion to suspend the rules to take a vote. So motion is Gloria, and then second is Blanca. So then we need a motion to, want to discuss, if there's any other discussion? Well, the motion is to pass B, C, E, and F. Bullying, volunteer exhibit, and the prohibited student conduct. We have a motion to approve that. Rebecca? And then Katie? And is there any other comments or questions? No? Okay, so all in favor of approving the B, C, E, and F? So it's approved, 7-0.
Thank you so much.
Okay. The other ones are up for review, so that would be A and C, A and D. D, got it. Okay, on to action items. What do we need, I believe, yeah, I'm stuck. Is there a motion to open this up and then to discuss it?
Yes.
Okay, motion to discuss the management action school business. We're gonna open it up, right? So Rebecca and then Blanca. So now we're up for discussion.
So I'm going to start with the presentation. Hopefully we'll address some of the questions that you might have. And then we'll have an opportunity to talk about it.
Okay,
Setting the rates.
make it through this.
So each year we're tasked with the job of setting the school tax rates. It is a little more complicated when you have a school district that encompasses multiple towns. So I'm going to walk through that process with you to kind of give you the background on what the requirements are for doing so, and to make sure that the taxes are being allocated equally amongst all the towns. So again, we have 4 towns within our school district, and there are portions of some towns, not all of the town boundaries are located within the school district. But if we were all one town, or if towns had the resources to conduct a town-wide reassessment each year, we would all be at the same tax rate by town. But that's not always feasible because it does take resources to conduct a reassessment. So, reevaluating every property, maybe bringing in an outside appraiser to do that. People will contest their assessments, going through that process. So it is a large task to do a reassessment. But we do have the obligation in New York State that all properties in a municipality, such as our school district, be assessed at the same percentage of fair market value. Because we have multiple towns with different valuations, we have to equalize them in some way so that's fair. And the mechanism to do that is to establish an equalization rate, and that's what town assessors do each year. So as property values and over the past several years, housing prices have gone up quite a bit. What that means is house pricing, fair market values are going up, but assessments have not gone up. So your house will still be assessed at the same value, even though if you went to sell it, you might sell it for $30,000, $40,000 more than what it's currently assessed at. So that equalization rate is a factor that demonstrates how far off are we from fair market values across the towns. So we'll look at some of those ratios coming up, but it is a way to equalize that so that all towns are now being assessed on what their fair market values would be for the purposes of allocating the tax levy and amount of taxes that need to be raised. So that equalization rate, if it were 100%, it means the town is assessed at fair market value, and that typically only happens when you do a reevaluation, and then it starts to drop off again. So if you're at an equalization rate of less than 100%, it's below fair market value. So a 90% equalization rate means that the properties have values that are about 90 or 10% below fair market value. So what you could sell the house at, what your house is currently assessed at, there's a difference of 10% in that value if it's a 90% equalization rate. But we want to make sure, again, that we're looking at this equating all towns equally in this process at fair market value. So we need to have a mechanism to do that, and that's the equalization rate process. Also factoring into this is when were the most recent townwide reassessments done. So you can see Guilderland did one 3 years ago, Bethlehem 8 years ago, New Scotland 16 years ago, and Knox did the last reassessment 25 years ago. So we're far apart in terms of valuations. Guilderland Town Assessor did provide me with the median full market value being our largest town, and that's $273,626. So when we look at that value, that represents fair market value, midpoint within the town, and we start looking at equalization rates, you can see the town has an equalization, the town of Guilderland has an equalization rate of 91%. So that means that that median house is currently assessed at $249,000. What its fair market value is $273,000. And now when you look at Bethlehem, who has a lower equalization rate, the value of that home drops down to $235,000, because it's been longer since they've done a revaluation. But that will translate into a $273,000 median full market value when you apply that equalization rate. New Scotland, similar, a little bit less, $221,000. And then Knox, at an equalization rate of 42%, that home would be valued about $115,000, which would be comparable to a home that sells at $273,000. So there's a wide variation in terms of equalization rates and really when the last reassessment and full valuation was done. The other piece of information that we need, or some of the data that we need to do the tax rate estimation, is not available when it needs to be available. So when we adopt the board, or when the Board of Education adopts the budget in early April, we always provide what an estimated tax rate increase would be. But we don't have the information that we really need to do it accurately at that time. So in early April, we don't have equalization rates by town. That's done in May and June. We don't have the final assessment total, and that usually comes around July 1st, usually a little bit later from the various towns, so we don't have that information. And exemption summary that we would need if there were tax exemptions, we don't have that until after July 1st as well. So what we do in that case is we just roll the information forward. We don't have any better information to utilize. We don't know what equalization rates are going to be, what those values should be. So we roll forward the same information that we have in terms of assessments and equalization rates, and we calculate an estimated tax rate. There are some factors that affect the tax rates encompassing multiple towns and typical impacts on town tax rates when you look at a couple of variables. So taxable valuation, if taxable valuation is increasing, so there's more taxable value on the rolls, you usually have a lower tax rate to generate the same amount of dollars. It's a lower rate, you've got a higher taxable valuation to get the same number. But if taxable valuation is decreasing, you need a higher rate to generate the same amount of dollars. And that's just within a town. In terms of the share of the tax levy, and again, we're splitting that tax levy across 4 towns, full value percentage is another component. So if the full value is increasing, it means that the distribution among the 4 towns is changing. A town is assuming more of the overall valuation of the school district. If that's increasing, you're going to have a higher tax rate. If it's decreasing, you'll likely have a lower tax rate. So when we do this, when we utilize the formula to determine the tax rates, it really is just a mathematical exercise. You just follow the math. You put it in the formulas, and the formula determines what the tax rates are going to be based on the data that we have from the towns at the time. So I wanted to show you by town what our estimate was in April and what our final rates here are in August. So you can see from the town of Guilderland, our estimate in April for the taxable valuation, the overall property valuation of the town was was over 4 billion. It's 3,965,000,000, so $79 million less. And the other change is there was a relatively minor reduction in the tax levy. It only went down $131,000. So when you look at the drop in taxable valuation and just a slight decrease in the tax levy, that usually will generate a larger tax rate because that taxable valuation is dropping, so we need a higher tax rate in order to come up with the same amount of tax dollars. Bethlehem, they have a modest increase in taxable valuation and the corresponding tax levy. So they're growing in valuation. They're also growing in terms of the overall tax levy. So that results in a relatively small tax rate increase compared to where we were. So we're at 2.98, 3.17, kind of a minor variation there in that town. Town of New Scotland, they again have a reduction in taxable valuations. So their overall property value is going down. They have an increase in full valuation, which is that distribution among towns. So that's going to result in a larger tax rate increase. They're going to be at 7.19%. And then finally, in Knox, they have a large increase in their valuation, but they also have a very large increase in their tax levy. Comparatively speaking, smaller town. So they are going to assume a greater share of the tax burden, and as a result have a higher tax rate increase than what we had estimated in April. So as you can see, it's formulaic driven. We put in the information, comes up with the numbers, and it's really looking at it again from what's happening within the town in terms of property valuations, and then what's happening among the towns in terms of property valuation to make sure that everybody pays their fair share. The tax rates are going to be inflated in some cases very high, like if you look at Knox, $39 per thousand, but again, their actual property valuations are very low in comparison. So they work in concert with each other. So with that, I can take any questions that you might have. I'm sorry. Oh, one more slide. Yes, finally. Sorry. Thank you, Marie. Appreciate that. Did want to share with you a five-year tax rate change summary by town. It will show the movement over time and factoring in, the reevaluation for Guilderland that took place in 2019-20, but how those tax rates have changed over time. So increases, decreases, a leveling off. But you can see there's quite a wide variety overall in terms of how that interaction happens each year. 2019-20 being that reevaluation year for Guilderland did affect every town. But you can also see outside of that, there are towns that have higher values, towns that have more modest values, and it really is a function of valuation and then that interplay between what's happening in the four towns that comprise the school district. So now I'll open up the floor to questions. Blanca, or is it? Sorry.
I'm just curious how often assessments have to take place. 25 years seems incredibly long.
Yeah, there is no legal requirement for when that has to be done. So it's really up to the town and whether they want to dedicate the resources to doing that. Blanca, I'm sorry.
Yep, I don't know if this is a good time, but can you explain what tax tertiaries are and how perhaps they fit in with this or other?
Sure. So a tax certiorari is a claim that a taxpayer would file stating that they believe their property valuation is overstated. It's too high given the conditions of the property. So they can make that claim. They would have to provide some data to the town assessor to say, here's why I don't think my property should be valued at what you have valued it at. It should be valued at a lower number. In those cases where there's a determination that the homeowner is correct, or property owner is correct, I should say, because we have businesses and homeowners, that can result in a refund. So taxes were paid based on the tax information at the time. Now you're going back and appealing that and saying I I was overcharged in that sense, so I paid higher taxes than I should have. Now you owe me a refund. So that comes back to the town and the school district in terms of a refund. So when that process takes place, sometimes it's negotiated between the assessor, people bring in their information. Here's why I don't think my house or business should be valued at as high as you have it, and here's my information. Sometimes it's a look at the data and said, yes, I agree, and we're going to lower your assessed value, and since you've already paid taxes on a higher assessed value, we'll refund you the money. In other cases, we have, property owners, businesses coming forward that can result in more of a court situation where we have attorneys involved, expert appraisers from both sides bringing information forward, and then that process usually is, or often is, ends up in court if the parties can't agree to that. So it's a more complex process. Business properties are more complex to value. So that's usually why attorneys get involved at that point, and expert appraisers in terms of trying to litigate what the correct assessment is.
Thank you, and just two kind of questions to go along with that. So the town hires an assessor to appraise property, right?
That's
to make
correct.
this appraiser. But then the school district, not the town, has to make amends and do the refund. Is that correct?
Correct. So the responsibility for setting the assessment is with the towns, but they're a taxpayer, school taxpayer as well. So the school district is going to be involved with the town as well as the library in Guilderland. That's another taxing entity. So all of those three entities collect taxes from taxpayers. So when if there were a refund, all three of us have to pay the refund due based on current tax rates we have and the assessments. Some of these obviously can take years to resolve as well, a year or longer, or 2 or 3. So as that gets discussed, possibly litigated, now you're paying more than 1 year back in terms of a refund. So those amounts can grow over time as well.
And school districts can't just say, no, we're not going to pay you. If it's been decided that there's a refund, then.
Correct. We're legally obligated
We're
to
legally
pay a
obligated.
refund if a refund is warranted.
But the person who did the assessment or the entity board that supervised the assessor, do they have any kind of requirements? Do they need to do anything to help a school district?
Well, they're the experts in regard to assessments. So there's a town assessor. The town assessor has the training and knowledge to adequately assess properties. Sometimes they will bring in a consultant to help on more complex property, typically business type properties, large properties that are not the norm. Houses, pretty easy to assess, but there's a lot of complications with varying businesses and how to look at and evaluate either their sales or their income or their rental income, there's income from the property, and how does that translate into a fair market value for the property. So it's not as simple as saying you have 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a certain age of a house and so many square feet tends to lead to certain valuation. Other properties are much harder to assess and does require somebody to look at different models of fairly assessing those properties, and then a lot of times it gets into which methodology is the truer measure of the property's value. And there's arguments that are made that you should assess it this way, you should assess it that way. And some of those cases are decided by judges who have to make a determination who's presenting the best case and then what that valuation should be. And in those court cases, we are obligated to pay whatever the refund is that's determined.
It sounds like that can be very financially damaging to school districts.
Yes, it can
And
be.
is there a statute of limitations?
They have you can really ask for your property to contest your assessment on a yearly basis. So typically when you do a large revaluation, that's a prime time, but certainly there's nothing to prevent any taxpayer in any given year to say, I think my property is overassessed and I want to have a conversation about changing that, and then where that conversation leads to could be in court, could be worked out between the town, but in any case, the idea is if somebody determines that that value was overstated, then the implication is you paid more tax than you should have and you are entitled to a refund.
Thank you. It just seems unfortunate that the district needs to pay when they're not involved in the actual assessment. Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Sure.
So that's, and then do I need to approve, or get this resolution approved first and then move to the next item? Is that how it works?
Yep.
Is it a roll call, or is it just, okay, so need a motion to approve the resolution to confirm tax rolls and authorize tax levy for 22-23.
That's correct.
Gloria? Second, Katie. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all those approve? All right, passes 7-0. The next item is a motion concerning the tax warrant. Is there any comments on that, or is it?
Not really. It's just the amount of how that tax levy, the amount of taxes that need to be raised, how that's apportioned between the 4 towns for
Okay.
both the school district and the library.
Right. So the second one is a motion concerning a tax warrant. Do we have a motion to approve? Rebecca and then Blanca. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye, 7-0. Next are 4 service agreements. Do you wanna
Yes.
Talk about those?
So we're
5
bringing,
service agreements.
we're bringing to you 4 agreements to, actually 5 agreements to authorize. Achievements PLLC, Laura Asaf, Barbara Collins, Sign Language Interpreter Services, and St. Catherine's R&E May School.
Okay, need a motion to approve.
Sign language one?
Can you just,
Sign language one, too?
Yes.
so we have 5 attachments, various service agreements. Judy and Rebecca, any other questions? All those in favor? Aye, passes 7-0. Next is, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Next is a resolution to approve an agreement to operate a combined ice hockey team, which would include students from Scotia Glenville Central School District, Mahonison Central School District, Shalimont Central School District, Voorheesville School District, and Guilderland Central School District for the 2022-23 school year. And the reason for this is none of the schools have enough ice hockey players to field a full team on their own. So we've been doing this now for a number of years, where we're spreading this across 5 districts, I think it is. The students, and there's enough then to get a team together and to be competitive and to have a sport, ice hockey sport, for interested students in those schools.
Great, glad we're able to do it. So a motion to approve the ice hockey agreement. Blanca, second Katie. Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Approved, passes 7-0.
Next, we have a consultant agreement, and it's to approve the independent consultant agreement with Michael J. Pipa to participate in planning meetings and to facilitate one workshop for the school district administrative leadership team.
Okay. A motion to approve the independent consultant agreement. Kim, second Rebecca. Any comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye, passes 7-0.
Next is the recommendation to approve the final 2021-22 BOCES service contracts and the preliminary 22-23 BOCES service contracts. And this is a requirement of BOCES to approve both the year ending and the anticipated services for the coming school year.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the 2 contracts with BOCES. Gloria, second Judy. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Passes 7-0.
Next is a resolution for the approval of private transportation contract extensions for next year, and they are with Durham School Services, Northland Transportation, Star and Strand Transportation, and Raja Group, LLC.
So we have a motion to approve. Gloria and Rebecca, second. Wasn't it Raja? Raja Group was not the one that we had issues with last time.
No, they're the ones that were awesome
Okay.
and saved us.
I don't see the name on here that was the bad people. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. So passes 7-0. Fresh milk.
Yes. Next is a resolution to approve the award for fresh milk for the 2022-23 school year to Sycoay Creamery Incorporated.
Okay, I need a motion to approve fresh milk. Blanca, Rebecca, second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Approved 7-0.
Next is a recommendation to approve the bid award for paper towels to Hill & Marks LLC, the low bidder meeting specifications for a 90-day term beginning August 10th, 2022.
A motion to approve paper towel bid. Kim and Judy. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 7-0.
Next is the approval of school breakfast and lunch prices for the coming school year. And those proposed prices are at the elementary level, breakfast at $1.95, lunch $3. The middle school, breakfast $2.50, lunch $3.25, and at the high school, breakfast $2.50 and lunch $3.25 as well.
I need a motion to approve the breakfast and lunch numbers. Gloria, second. Judy. So this indicates that the federal government's not paying for everybody's meals anymore, except for the people that it's warranted for.
Correct.
So, great. All those approve. Any questions? Go ahead.
In looking at this, do we have any feedback on some of the challenges last year with supply and meeting the supply demands for our school lunches and, just some kind of student feedback on that from the high school? How are things looking at this point going, and do we know yet for this school year?
Well, we're probably going to face some of the same challenges. I mean, the problem is it's inconsistent in terms of which products might be affected or not, and it could be whether the product's affected or whether the delivery is affected. But we are hoping that we're going to have a more consistent distribution process this year, and that the products that we order will come in. They're also, and we had to do this a lot last year, is we have alternates that we can go to if we need to in case something doesn't come in. So there are some planning that, if we don't get the shipment we need, we will have an alternate. We also are doing some shared purchasing. So through BOCES, with some of our food items, and I know we did some trading last year as well with area schools. So on any given day or any given week, if we were short something, Bethlehem had some extra, we borrow, and then we pay them back when our order came in. So there was a lot of that cooperative sharing going on between schools. But as you know, still not back to normal in terms of products, and the products change in terms of what's available today may not be available 2 or 3 months from now, or maybe shipping delays or manufacturing delays. So, but I have to give credit to our food service staff, and I think all of them, all the schools around us, certainly they had to work through this process last year in terms of planning on something and then having to make adjustments and always trying to work ahead and build a model that would make sure that we had a way to meet students' needs. And sometimes that meant borrowing from somebody else and sharing some freezer space and doing all of those things. So the directors, the food service directors in the area did a really nice job of working together collaboratively, and that will continue again this coming school year. So.
Lots of questions. Blanca, I know you were next. Oh, no? Okay, Kim.
I just want to be clear, just so I understand. There were issues last year at the high school during fourth mod lunch where it was enough to where in our thought exchange, our high school students were actually saying, we don't have food. So that, I just want to make our students feel confident that that is not going to happen this year, where even if we're thinking outside of the box or trading or doing whatever we need to do, they're going to have things there.
Yeah, we anticipate that. Again, you know, we can't control all the supply chains and all the supplier issues, so what it looks like right now could change months from now, just as we saw it in the past, but we're not anticipating that same thing, at least now, so.
And I'm sorry to ask another one, so is there any way to have like an out-of-the-box, like, Plan Z in case, because if our students are telling us that they don't have food, even with supply chain issues and things like that, I have a problem with that.
Well, we can certainly, I mean, we do our best, and I think you have to trust us in the fact that we're gonna do our best. We just don't control everything, and we don't have storage enough for, we can't overbuy products, we can't overbuy products that expire.
Right.
So we have those limitations, so I would say to you, Renee Heller, our food service director, has been in this business for a while. She has lived that experience, as have many of the other directors. They're all doing the best they can to make sure that they can provide meals and have a sufficient supply. I know that's at the top of their minds, and trying to make sure we have mechanisms in place to try to do that whenever possible. So if we have storage capacity, we've actually added some storage that we didn't have last year. For that reason, so that we could store more product on hand to try to ride through some of those. So we have made those kinds of changes. But, you know, there may be substitutions that we have to make, and we had to make substitutions last year, which is, we plan to serve this, but it's not available, you know, sufficient supply, but we have something else that we can offer in replacement. But I think the key thing there is, we did have storage capacity for products.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca?
So we didn't charge students for the last 2 years during the pandemic, right, because of federal funds?
Correct, so that every student could eat for free. So now we're back to kids that qualify, families that qualify for needing reduced prices or being eligible for reduced prices. That's back in play as well, and then those that don't qualify will be paying full price.
Okay. So some districts in other parts of the country have penalized students for having overdue balances. I just want to make sure Guilderland would never do something like that.
No, we don't.
We do not.
Okay, great.
Katie?
One last thing, if we do find that we're facing challenges again, because there was student feedback at one point on the thought exchange, maybe it would be good if we could open that back up to students again to provide that feedback so that we're aware of students that are facing challenges, specifically at the high school. If they're doing that again, just, you know, if we find we're in that situation, providing them a method of communicating that to us would be good.
Blanca?
That's along the lines of what I was gonna ask. Do we already, so my kids take lunch, so I don't know, but do we tell the parents or let the kids know ahead of time by like even a day or two? Do we let them know that there's a food shortage and then give people the heads up that they may want to bring a lunch, or no?
Well, I think we're always endeavoring to make sure we have enough lunches, so I don't know that we always know. I think in this situation, we're going to have people that aren't all going to get free meals this time, so we may have more children that are actually bringing their lunches. It's what may cut down on the amount of food that we actually store and have available, so that might take some of the edge off. But remember, last year everybody was free and everybody could eat for free, so everybody was doing so, and it was great. It was needed, and certainly students participated, but there should be less demand as we go back to pre-pandemic operations.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, so we need to, all those in favor of approving the school board lunch, or school breakfast and lunch prices? Aye, passes 7-0. Next is some comments on the general fund transfer.
Yes, we have a number of general fund transfers as outlined in your materials, totaling $539,550.
Oh, did I do a motion to approve it? Motion to approve it? Oh, motion to, we'll discuss it. Blanca and Rebecca is there. Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Passes 7-0. No, I'm off my rhythm. I have to introduce it, right? So we need a motion to discuss the resolution authorizing destruction of balance for the 2021 school district election. Motion to discuss. I'm off my, Gloria, Rebecca, we can discuss it. I don't know, I'm lost now.
Just
You
need a
do-
motion and a second.
Motion and a
Then we can
second to
discuss.
open it and discuss it.
So
All right.
this is recommendation from our law firm, and we've been doing it for several years, but what it is whenever we have an election or a vote, like we have with our capital project referendums, we're only required to maintain those ballots for 6 months, and then it's recommended that they be destroyed, and that really ties into the amount of time that you have for filing an appeal for those votes. They have to be filed within that time frame. So in this instance, we're beyond the 6 months, so there is no valid or need to keep them for any reason whatsoever. So again, recommendation of our attorneys is to go ahead and take this action and destroy those ballots, and it frees up a lot of storage space for us as well.
Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Passes 7-0. And the next item is the declaration of surplus and obsolete property.
Yes, so we have a number of items. These are mostly technology items that are old and outdated and no longer have value to the school district. So Dave Howell, who's here this evening, is recommending that we surplus these items. And again, for storage reasons, we could use the extra space by taking some of this older technology out of our buildings.
So you have a motion?
I have a question. Oh, do we have to have the motion?
With a motion to declare declaration of surplus and obsolete property. Judy and Becca, comments or questions?
Okay. Do we ever get any money for any of these? I mean, just looking at how many laptops are on, but in general, do we?
Yeah, it's not great money. So.
But it's coming in instead of going out.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get something for it, then anything's better than nothing. But I will say, these are beyond their useful life for what we need it for. Could it be of value to somebody out in the community that doesn't need the latest and greatest and has minimal need for technology? It could. Dave, you look like you want to come to the mic, perhaps, or not? No, you good? If you're good, we're good. I mean, I think that's what Dave would want me to say. How about that?
Okay. I just looked at the number of computers and the number of items and wondered if we ever, we don't get much on anything, right?
No, it is older technology. These are certainly have had their use, daily use within classroom setting. So a number of hands on them, a number of students, a lot of activity. So these, you'll see the condition is fair on all of these. So we're not selling anything that's still good or excellent condition, that's still usable. But for our needs, it certainly has reached its end of the life in terms of what we can do with it, and needs in the classroom and needs in office places and so on and so forth. But certainly there's people out there that might look at some of those models and say, hey, I might be interested in, you know, a little bit older computer for what I need it for.
Thank you.
Because of the pandemic and the need for devices rapidly, my team kept a lot of stuff for a long time. There's a thing with the Chromebooks. We have a lot of Chromebooks on that list. There's a thing called update expiration. Basically, its usable life and when it'll keep getting updates, and we'll keep working with the new things coming out. And all these devices are past that AUE or auto update expiration. Will they continue to work? Some of them do. Some of them are beyond economical repair. But that's why those devices are there. They kept a lot of stuff that would normally have gone away last year or even the year before, and that's why it's such a big amount this year. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the number was huge. That's why I was
It
wondering.
is a really big number, and that's one of the first things I noted when I toured the buildings and I got here. I'm like, wow, we have a lot of stuff, and they're like, COVID. No one, okay, I get it. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so all those in favor of the declaration of surplus obsolete property? Aye. Proof 7-0. Okay. Thank you, Neil. Next, superintendent action items.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 items tonight. The first is a request to approve 2 annual district plans. These were reviewed at our July 5th board meeting. It's the Project to Save plan and our professional development plan.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the Project Safe Plan and the Professional Development Plan. Gloria, second. Katie, comments, questions? All those in favor? Aye, passes 7-0.
And my second item tonight is our first co-curricular club approval request for this new school year. And this is a club called Doodle, Draw, and Cartoon Club with Ms. Rader and Mr. Kramack. And it will be held at the middle school.
It's a shame they don't have it for my son. He would love this. So I need a motion to approve the Doodle and Cartoon Club request. Gloria and Blanca, any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Great, approved at 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Wiles. So, board president action is next. So, click here. So, I'm just going to read this. Following the public hearing on July 5th, 2022, and having allowed 30 days for public comment, the attached code of conduct policy is presented for adoption this evening. Includes policies A through R. That's correct, right? So, need a motion to approve these code of conduct. Blanca and Katie, any comments or questions? Great. So, all those in favor? Aye. Passes 7-0. Great. And the last item is the revised charge to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I'll just read it. A revised copy is this is a charge to the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. It's attached and presented to the Board of Education. Some of the changes were just in the name, the title of the committee, and how many standing board members could be on the committee. I don't think there was too much more changes other than that. So we need a motion to approve the charge to the DEI committee. Kim and Rebecca, any comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor? Great. Next is board committee reports. I'll start with audit. Well, a lot of them haven't formed yet, so we haven't had an audit committee member meeting. However, it's the same couple of members on it since last time, so we haven't had a meeting. Business practices.
We haven't had a meeting.
Haven't had a meeting?
Haven't formed our committee.
Great. Policy has been busy.
Yeah,
Go
those
ahead.
were the fruits of our labor.
Sorry.
I've always wanted to say that.
Thank you, Blanca. Any other items for policy? You guys, I've been busy. Communications.
We have not met yet, but we'll be soon meeting soon.
Great. And DEI hasn't
No,
formally,
Not yet.
probably don't
We're
have.
meeting soon.
They have a meeting soon. Great. That's it, I think. Linda, is there any other public comments? Okay. And last is board issues, ideas, and sharing. Blanca.
I just wanted to give a shout out to all the kids involved with the butterfly station and to Molly Fanning, who she looks like she's working really hard. I had heard that the air conditioning had stopped working during those really, really hot days, and I do hope that has been fixed. Cliff, if you're listening, it would be awesome if you could help with the AC, but they've done a great job, and it's really nice to see that project.
Anything, Rebecca?
It's just been really nice to see all the construction going on outside. The track is really coming along.
Yeah.
It looks great. I was just wondering if there's any end date. I mean, we congratulate Cliff and all of his team and all their efforts, but just wondering. Cliff.
We're closing in on the end of the 2019 authorization, so we are getting toward the end of that process and finishing up that work. But in the meantime, we've also started work on the 2021 project, which a lot of it's wrapped up into the track that you'll notice. So there's kind of an overlap. So if you're looking for an end to construction, it's not going to happen. It's going to change in terms of its focus, but really we're kind of just in this, we're going to continue to work in the buildings. We've got projects in, I think, just about every building. And as one project ends, we've already started second projects, and so that'll continue on for another year or two. So, you know, we've got-
Any idea when the turf field can be used?
Hoping for later this fall, not
This
maybe
fall.
at the beginning of the season. The last update I heard was maybe mid-season. So I don't know if that's still holding true at this point.
Okay,
That was several weeks ago, but there's hope there.
great.
A lot of things have to happen, as you know, to make sure everything comes together as it's planned. So
If there's interest, after the opening day meeting, if board members would like to get on a bus and take a tour around the buildings, I know
Yeah, that would
Cliff
be
would be
awesome.
interested in
That's great.
doing some show and tell, and we can get Inho to drive.
Great.
So I'll work on arranging that.
Okay.
And don't forget, everybody do that board self-evaluation. You can't do it in the split page, you have to go back to the, oh,
Right.
I learned that.
Right.
Only took 5 months.
It's helpful to have it on here, though. Okay. Well, that concludes our board meeting. I have no idea the end of board meeting. Let's see. Motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn. Blanca, Rebecca, all those in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Good job, Kelly.
You've been waiting to do that.
I've been waiting to do that. It's true.